Let us continue to stand for the ideals for which they lived and died. Thank you very much, and God bless you all.
Hello and welcome to Justice for Veterans. My name is David Standridge. We're glad you could join us for this episode. To tell you a little bit about myself, I'm a licensed attorney and been practicing law since 1996. I am a VA accredited representative and licensed before the Court of Appeals for Veterans Claims, which is the highest court within the Veterans Administration system. I am the managing attorney over at the Justice Legal Group, and also handle most of my practice being handling disability claims for veterans. We're really doing this show for three reasons. One, we want to provide information to veterans and help them to help their lives and make it a little bit easier for them to find the services that are necessary. Two, we want to provide engaging content so that all of us within the community can learn more about veterans' needs. And three, we want to spotlight a veteran and thank them for their service. The veterans served and protected us, and we look forward to protecting them. That's why we do the show, Justice for Veterans. In this part of our show, I like to address a disability issue that I often see occurring in claims for veterans' disability benefits. And in this part of our program, I want to address something that I've been seeing a lot of recently, and that is the magic words, so to speak, in medical evidence. And what I mean when I say magic words is that the VA looks for certain things, and to be honest with you, it's not just the VA, but in the court of law, you have to have medical opinion or testimony or medical evidence that reaches a certain standard. And if you lack that standard, then there's a lack of inherent reliability in that opinion. And so the magic words of what you're looking for are, you're looking for a medical professional to say that something is more likely than not. And so not having those words in your medical opinion can mean getting or not getting your disability benefits. That's how important those words are. There are various regulations and laws and rules regarding what is necessary in terms of meeting the inherent standard that's required by the Veterans Administration system. But those words are critical so that the doctor who's giving an opinion about your certain condition or your disease or your injury must say that it's more likely than not that disease, injury, or illness was connected to something that occurred in service or was more likely than not caused by something in service. So those magic words are vitally important to the success of any disability claim, and to make sure that you have that by working closely with your medical provider. That's what we do at our firm, to make sure that we work closely to get that inherent legal reliability that's necessary for victory into disability claims. If you have a question about a disability issue, you can contact me at info@justicelegalgroup.com, and I'll address your question on our next show. Thank you. Now we want to turn our attention to Spotlight a Veteran. This is the part of our show where we want to say thank you to a particular veteran for their dedication and service to our nation. Before we do, however, I want to start off by saying thank you to one of our viewers, Peter Everett, who pointed out to me that the mascot that we have for Salute to Our Veteran is saluting with the wrong hand. That is being fixed. We do not want to upset or frustrate anybody by that. It is being fixed. So let's turn our attention to Spotlight a Veteran. The veteran we want to spotlight today is Rito Valles. He was served in the United States Army. He was a welder and a truck driver, and his service dates were from November 1967 until September 1969. Here's a picture here of Mr. Valles, and he was stationed in Vietnam from September 1968 until September 1969. And he was honorably discharged after he was done in his term in the military. So this shout out and salute to Mr. Valles is brought to him by his niece, Maria Torres, and she says thank you. And we all say thank you to Mr. Valles for his service and dedication to our nation. If you would like to give a salute to a veteran who means something to you, then contact me at info@justicelegalgroup.com and give me that person's name and your contact information, and we'll say thank you to that veteran. Hi, I'm David Standridge from the Justice Legal Group. Our firm represents veterans and helps them obtain benefits in their disability cases before the Veterans Administration. We believe that you worked hard to protect our nation, and we want to work hard to protect you. Welcome back to Justice for Veterans, and we're excited that you're with us today. We have a tremendous guest for you. We're excited that she could take time out of her busy schedule to join us, and we're excited to have Elinor Reiners with us today. Our special guest, she is the head of the Veterans Integration Centers here in New Mexico, and she's going to share some of what she's doing in this great state of New Mexico, as well as what her future objectives and goals and dreams are for helping the veterans community. So, Ms. Reiners, thank you very much for joining us. We're excited that you're with us today. Thank you.
Dave, thank you so much for having us.
Well,
I represent the whole group when I say we appreciate any time somebody's interested in what we're doing.
Well, good. Thanks. Well, we're all working on the same team, right?
Right.
Trying to help our veterans.
I agree with that.
So I definitely want to talk to you about what you're doing with the Veterans Integration Centers and get some more information about that. But before I do, I want our viewers to know who you are. Where did you grow up? Were you in the military? What branch? And when did you serve?
I was actually born here in New Mexico, but I was raised in Nevada. I joined the military so I could see the world. And we moved to Holloman Air Force Base, and that's where I was stationed the whole time. So after I left the military, I was there for 4 years. I stayed in New Mexico, finished my engineering degree, and have been here since then.
Awesome.
So for about 30 years in New Mexico.
And do you come from a family of veterans as well?
Yes, my dad was in the military, he was in the Air Force. My dad was in the Army, my husband was in the Air Force, and both of his parents were in the military.
That's great.
One in the Marines and one in the Army. His mom was in the Army.
Wow.
She is actually a World War II veteran.
Wow. Those are getting more and more rare nowadays,
yes, very
unfortunately.
Rare, very rare.
When you have it. So she's still alive?
She's still alive.
That's good. Well, you got to make sure to record her history as much as you can, right?
Right.
So let's talk a little bit about what the Veterans Integration Centers are. Tell our audience, what is it?
The organization, it's a transitional living facilities that was founded using a grant per diem program through the VA and funding from the New Mexico Department of Veterans Services and, of course, the community. We do not operate without the community's involvement, but it's a transitional living facilities. We provide housing, food, and services, transportation to homeless veterans who are trying to recover their lives and move back into the working community. So through that program, we have a staff that is case management, we do nutrition, we do life skills training. We do monitoring 24/7 because they're in the facilities that we do have curfews, we have rules. And what we try to do is get them out of the homeless environment back into what we call successful transitioning, which is stable housing and income, stable income. And that is what we consider our success rate. Right now we can serve up to 50 veterans, and we have about a 67% success rate.
Wow, that's good.
Yes, and last year, for the whole year, we served 125 veterans.
Awesome.
And moving them into and out of the program, we average about 4 a month, moving them in, moving them out. And it really feels good when you see a veteran who you have brought in, really downtrodden, and then they get excited. I had one veteran on Friday. He was in tears when he came into the office. He said, "Guess what I got?" And I go, "What'd you get?" "A JOB." And he was so excited because when he got with us, when he first came to us, he was depressed and didn't know what to do. And he had had a few rough patches with his health and stuff, so he had lost his job. Now he's getting ready to transition. That was a great thing.
That's awesome. And are most of these veterans, are they disabled veterans or just veterans who are kind of down on their luck at this point?
We have a mix. Right now we have our youngest veterans about 26, our oldest is about 75. Wow. Some of them are 100% disabled, some are not. Some just had down on their luck. I had one individual came in one time with his head down. We do an interview. We do a 3-panel interview before they come in to make sure they're fit. We vet them through the whole system. But he wouldn't even look us in the eye, and he said, "I never thought I'd ask anybody for help." He said, "I had a job, I had my career going." And then he had some health issues, and he lost his job, couldn't pay his rent. And he came with us, and within a few months he started to pick up. His health was better. He got his benefits because he was a disabled veteran, and he didn't know it. Wow. He had benefits that he didn't know.
That's awesome.
And so it ranges. And the younger ones, we're seeing more of the PTSD kind of thing. The Vietnam era, we see the same type of behavior. They just didn't have the same name for it back then. And they learned how to cope differently. The younger ones are having a hard time. And those are the hardest problems to deal with.
Sure, sure. And I definitely want to ask you about those questions, but let me back up because you mentioned the Veterans Integration Centers are called VIC, is that correct?
Everybody calls us the VIC.
The VIC, okay.
The VIC.
And right now there's just one facility and it's in Albuquerque?
Correct. It's in Albuquerque. We're located on 13032 Central, just west of Tramway.
And what is your goal with the VIC?
Right now, our goal for the VIC, we did some strategic planning last year, and what we'd like to do is have a dual campus arrangement to where we can house homeless veterans, and hopefully, of course, everybody's plan, my plan, work myself out of a job so I don't have to deal with homelessness. But we can house our homeless veterans, but then have the other campus to be low-income veterans that we're catching coming out of the military so we can avoid the homelessness. They can come in, have low-income housing and all the services that our homeless veterans do before they become homeless. So they can access job placement, job training, benefits, just all the various services that we have access to. So my goal, ultimately, reduce homelessness.
Sure.
But in the long run, I'd like to have a dual campus so that we're managing it, so preventing a lot of homelessness too.
What about expanding outside of Albuquerque?
We're already in talks with other groups to expand outside of Albuquerque.
Good.
Right now it's a matter of how much can we handle, but we're looking at a couple different places, rural areas where some people don't want to come to the big city, even though they have to come here for the VA medical treatment, but they still want to be in rural areas. So we're talking to one group right now, and then also other groups up north.
That's awesome. Well, let me ask you some more specifics about your program. You said you provide housing. What kind of housing is it? How do you get the housing?
Well, what they do is they apply, first of all, to us through the program, go through a vetting process, and then we do interviews. We work with the Value Place, which is across the street from our office building. And what they have is they're two-room suites, two-bed suites. And it has a private bath and a kitchenette. Our veterans are required to cook for themselves. If they don't know how to cook, we put them through training classes on how to cook. We provide the food for them, but they have to be independent. So they have to have a roommate. So there's two people to a room, and they're limited on the amount of things that they can take in. It's a drug-free environment. They can't smoke in their rooms, and they are required to keep their rooms clean. So what they do is they apply. If they fill all the criteria for homelessness, and they meet our criteria for what we can handle, then we put them into the program, and then they have to work with a case manager to define their goals. They get to define their program, and then we monitor their progress through the program.
Okay. And how many beds do you have in your program?
We could serve up to 50 veterans on the current grant per diem program, but this year, fortunately, we've gotten a lot of collaborations. The Roadrunner Food Bank is helping us with emergency shelter. So we can actually put people beyond the grant per diem program because we can afford it now.
Okay.
So we can take them a little bit beyond that number, and it's all within the guidelines. They get the same exact services. It's just we don't get paid through the grant per diem program. But we've got the community involved now.
Well, that's good. That's important.
Yes, very important.
And so you mentioned housing. You also mentioned food, and I heard you just say you provide the food. Where do you get the food from?
Well, we get the food, we have an agreement with Roadrunner Food Bank, so we buy the food through Roadrunner. We also get donations. Fortunately, the community, the first time I got there, we had run out of food. And you know how the military is. I got on the phone and said, we're out of food, and before I knew it, they had come in, filled our coffers so I could get by for the rest of the week. So we do get donations. Sometimes groups like the Women Vets of New Mexico did a food drive for us. Filled our coffers again. So, and we buy it. We also, a part of our funding includes purchasing it, but we rely a lot on the community.
And so the homeless vets that are there, you just give them the food free of charge.
Correct.
That's awesome.
It's all part of the program.
It's part of the program. And what kind of food is it that you're giving to them? I mean,
well, our nutrition, she's a little bit of a stickler, so she tries to stick a lot to the chickens and stuff, but every now and then I say, you know, most of them are men. We have to give them red meat. So they'll get a variety, ground meat. Sometimes we can get some steaks in if that's available, chicken products, and we try to do some of the microwavable type of things because some of them do have limitations on their cooking.
Sure.
We work with Sprouts. They donate once a week. We go down, pick up fresh produce, and we do the canned vegetables, pastas, that type of thing, eggs, milk, that type.
That is
a little
awesome.
bit of everything.
Yeah. So I mean, this is good food you're giving to the vets.
Yes, it's
That's
very
great.
good food, and she tries to keep it focused on, okay, limited starches, you know.
Sure, sure.
No sugars
So you actually have a nutritionist there who's also helping to educate the vets on their nutritional needs.
Yeah, she's a nutrition coordinator, and what she does is she basically coordinates their meals and how to cook it and all that type of thing.
That's wonderful.
Yes.
So you told me about the housing, phenomenal. You told me about the food, phenomenal. You also talked about services. What kind of services is it that you provide there at the VIC?
Well, each veteran is assigned a case manager, and that case manager is responsible for sitting down with the veteran. They meet several times during their first 3 months and then slowly kind of taper off, but they meet with them to check on them. And what they do is they define the goals. If the veteran is disabled and can't work, then the goals are going to be a little bit different from somebody who's young and ready to go out there and get job trained. So the services they provide, if they're benefits, we work with the VA or with their retirement to try and get those benefits in place, apply for them. Food stamps, most of them qualify for food stamps. If they are trainable, we get job training. The Department of Workforce Solutions, we work hand in hand with one of our case managers comes out and he spends the day at the VIC. We have a room set up for him and he meets with the veteran, helps him do resumes, helps him get job training, and helps him apply for jobs that are available. We also set them up with workshops or various job fairs throughout town. We also have one of the diocese churches is helping us do tutoring for the gentlemen that are in school, gentlemen and ladies are in school. We have connections with places like UNM and CNM so that we can get them to apply for educational benefits and start the programs. And the State Department of Veterans Services also helps us if we need. One of the great programs, and they're actually going to brief us this week, is to help them get mental health or medical health outside of the VA. The VA is backlogged, and sometimes it takes a while to get them in, and sometimes I need to get them in quickly. And fortunately, the Department of Veterans Services has set up not only the medical type of treatment, but now they're working on the mental health as well.
Wow, that's phenomenal. So, I mean, your whole goal is to get these vets so that they become self-sufficient and they get back out into the community and they can get jobs, right?
Right, right.
That's awesome.
The key is to get them out and be independent. We call it our 80-20 program. They do 80% of the work, we do 20%. Our objective is help them define it, help them walk them through it, and then help them eventually transition out the door.
Do you have like an average time frame it takes for a veteran from the time they come in to the time that they're done with your program?
Right now we're sitting at about 12 months.
12 months?
Yes.
And can you put in terms of dollar figure, I mean, how much does it cost, like from start to finish, for one veteran to go through your program? Do you know that?
It varies, but on average, like in the grant per diem program, the VA, it costs $5,600 per veteran for an average stay of 12 months. And the overall, and I count everybody's money, the VA, the state, and the community, about $8,400 per veteran. You can't do that anywhere else other than a nonprofit.
You're right. So $8,400 is what you calculate to put a veteran through your program, and the cost to the actual veteran is zero.
Yes.
Right?
The cost to the veteran is zero. Now, if they do get an income during the program, we require that they provide participation fees, which can be up to 30% of their income, and it's on a sliding scale. So some of them are paying $20. Some will, and if they're paying up to $400, it's almost time for them to leave. The max we'll allow is $400. The objective is to train them again to start paying, to learn how to manage their assets, and then to be ready when they get out to pay rents, utilities, all that kind of thing. But it also goes back into the program too.
That's great. That's
and
tremendous.
if they don't have any income, then it doesn't.
And how do you get the word out to veterans that the VIC is there and they're helping people?
We do various types of outreach activities. Once a month at the VIC, we have a working relationship again with the Roadrunner Food Bank. We're doing an outreach to low-income veterans that come in and get food baskets at our place. So we tell them about the VIC, about services, because even if they're not homeless, there's still veteran services out there. So we have one of our partners come in with us to do this outreach. We also do an annual stand down, and stand down is huge. Everybody in the Albuquerque community gets together. Last year we hooked up with about 376 veterans, homeless veterans.
Wow.
And we provided them services. And what we had 45 services at that event. It's a two-day event. One day it's strictly veterans, next day it's veterans and other homeless people. And what we do is we provide them a place where they can take a shower, they can get hygiene kits, they can get clothing, they can get meals, and then they can go to each of the different services that are there that will help veterans out. And it's a huge community event. It is so much fun just to see the community get involved to help these people out.
Sure. Well, we're starting to get shorter on time, but I do want to ask you another question. When the veterans are coming in, what would you say the biggest problem you're seeing with the veterans? What's the biggest problem that they're faced with?
I'd say the biggest problem that they're faced with is, especially a year ago, was inability to get a job. The market was just killing these people who didn't have degrees, who didn't have certificates, even though they had been trained in specific areas. So getting a job was the hardest thing for them to do. And that's why many of them went back to school, just to get the certificates, even though they're my age. They're going back to get certificates for something they've been doing for 30 years. So I'd say that was the hardest thing. And the other thing I'd say is lack of support, whether it be family or other organizations. They didn't know what to do or where to go. So they were kind of lost.
And are you seeing any problems? I know you mentioned that you don't allow drugs and alcohol, but I mean, we all understand the issues that some of like the veterans who have PTSD face with self-medication. I mean, do you find any problems with that?
Yes, about 50% of our veterans have some kind of either alcohol or drug-related issue.
Wow.
So that's typically where we'll see the 33% that aren't successful at transition out of the program. And we try to work with them on a case-by-case basis, but they do have issues that they've had for a long time. I'd say the harder PTSD issues, those are the hardest to deal with when it comes to the drug and alcohol abuse.
And do you help those veterans with finding services, mental health professionals or whatever?
Yes, we work directly with the VA to try to get them in. They have various programs over at the VA, like the STAR program or the DOM, that they'll put them into intensive therapy to try and help drug or alcohol-related issues. We also have people that are in the program that want to take other veterans to AA or things like that they want to help each other out.
You're doing a tremendous benefit for our veterans. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
With regards to someone who wants to come to the VIC and they say, okay, I've heard what Elinor is telling me, how do I get involved? What do they do to sign up?
To sign up to join the VIC or to be part of the solution?
To join the VIC, first of all.
Okay, so they can go to the VIC. Now to tell you the truth, the biggest advertising we get is veterans. I'd say at least 50% of people who walk in the door say, my veteran friend told me this. But what they can do is they can go to our website. It's www.nmbic.org. They can download an app, fill it out and send it in. Or they can come to the VIC offices. They can call. The phone number is 505-265-0512. And they can fill out an application there. They can go directly to the VA. All of our partners, the state, the Department of Veterans Services, all have applications that they can fill out. We take those applications, we vet them, and then we get them in for an appointment, and from then it's history.
And how long does that process take once they fill out the application?
If there is no rush, if there's not an immediate rush, it can take a week, maybe 2 weeks.
Okay.
If there's an immediate rush, I've interviewed in the morning, had them in a couple hours later. It just depends on the situation.
And as we get ready to wrap up, if you could tell folks in the community who want to help support the VIC, what do they need to do?
Anybody who wants to donate time, donate items, we take donated items because when our veterans transition, we give them furniture, clothing, everything that they need to go into a new housing, because most of them come in with what's on their back. So they can donate food, they can donate time, they can do drives, they can donate money. And all this, we have a needs list, which is on our website, www.nmvic.org. There's a needs list on there. There's contact information. We have an outreach coordinator. If they want to volunteer, they can come in and help us with our events. Stand Down's huge. We need about 200 volunteers when we do that. So that's one of those.
And they can also call you at the 265-0512?
Correct.
Okay. Well, I'll tell you, you're doing a tremendous benefit for our veterans community. Thank you so much for what you're doing over there at the VIC. And we're looking forward to the Stand Down, and we're looking forward to what new kinds of activities you'll be doing.
October 17th and 18th. So we look forward to seeing everybody. Thank you so much for having us.
All right. Well, we want to thank our special guest, Elinor Reiner, for being with us. She, again, is running the Veterans Integration Center here in Albuquerque. And again, I'm going to give you that website. It's NMVIC. So it's NM like New Mexico, VIC.org. And the phone number is 265-0512. And you heard from her directly. They have this big event coming up in October. I would encourage everyone who's involved in the veterans community to contact Miss Reiner over there at that phone number and let her know how you can get involved and what you're willing to do. They need a lot of people for the Stand Down that's coming in October. And if time permits, we certainly would love to have Ms. Reiner come back and share with us the success that she's had with the Stand Down that's coming in October. So again, we want to thank our special guest, Elinor Reiner, for being with us today from the VIC, and we look forward to hearing more from her in the future. If you would like to appear on Justice for Veterans, then please contact me at info@justicelegalgroup.com. We would love to have you come on and tell what you're doing to help benefit the veterans community. And we want to thank again Elinor Reiner for joining us today as our special guest. And as we say goodbye, we'd like to thank all of the men and women who've bravely served our nation and thank them and understand that without you, we know we could not do what we are doing today. And so we want to end and say thank you. God bless you, and God bless the United States of America.
Thank you for watching Justice for Veterans. A special thanks to the Ronald Reagan Foundation, the Justice Legal Group, and the veterans who have made this show possible. Tune in next week for a new episode of Justice for Veterans.